Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to episode 7 of my new build garden renovation series. In this video I'll show you how I built a raised deck for my hot tub to be sunken into. If you've been watching the whole garden reno series, you'll have seen how I prepped this area with solid foundations and built my pergola. Or if you're new here, maybe this is your first video, welcome. There's plenty more to see, so head over to my channel to watch the full garden reno series from episode 1 or follow the direct link in the description box below. Right, let's have a refresh on my new build plot, the shape of my back garden, the inspo for the whole project, and my very professional artistic plans. For a change, I won't actually be tackling this task alone, and instead I invited my dad down on Father's Day weekend to work on this project together. Don't tell me I don't treat the old man to a good time. But before he arrived, I got prepared and installed an outdoor plug socket, which was really rather simple. Following this, I popped over to my local timber yard to pick up the decking, and then we were ready to crack on. Firstly, we needed to build a frame for the decking boards to attach to. Because the pergola is solid, we were able to attach the frame directly to the pergola posts. The height of the pergola is 10 foot, so the height of the decking was based on my other half being 6'3" to make sure that he'd be able to stand on the decking without banging his head off the rafters. So, my dad is a complete joker. I always pre-warn people that all he speaks is Geordie and sarcasm. So, anyways, being filmed is a bit funny, isn't it? So he was messing about with the camera while he got used to us pointing it at him all the time. But pay attention to the lack of battery in the miter saw. We kept swapping it between the miter and the circular saw because I only have one big 54-volt battery. Anyways, he went to make a cut, but of course nothing happened. So he just proceeded to make the noises and pretend. This became a running joke throughout the build as the battery wasn't in place a good few times. I wish this wasn't all filmed in time lapse so that there'd be sound. Instead, I asked him to send us a voice note of a miter saw sound to insert into the video, but he must have been too chicken as I'm yet to receive it. Right, back to the build. The decking frame was strengthened by adding more joists. To secure the joists, I opted for the same timber screws that I'd used for my pergola, as I knew that they were solid, of good quality, and they drive straight into the wood like a knife through butter. We would measure the length we needed, make the cut, and then fix it in place, and just keep repeating that process for each side. There's that missing battery again. For additional strength, we also added timber to the wall of the garage, the wall between me and next door, and the back fence. We used the offcuts from the joists to make supporting legs. Each leg had plastic sheeting stapled to the bottom of it. This is because they'll be stood directly on my concrete base, and although the timber is treated, the concrete will get damp and I want this decking to last. So to prevent any rot, the feet are getting another layer of protection. Before we knew it, a solid framework was built and we were ready to start adding the decking boards. For ease of frequent access, we started at the back fence. The space between the garage wall, the back fence and the garden wall isn't square, but the pergola and the decking framework has been made square, so this is what we'll use to guide the decking board's position. We placed a board on the outer edge closest to us to go off, which you might be able to make out here. Then we had a starting position to run the other boards off at the back. Because the distance between the garage and the garden wall doesn't run square, the ends of the decking boards needed to be scribed so that they became completely flush to both walls, and some cutouts were made for around the pergola posts. The boards were secured in place with standard timber screws, and we used a scrap piece of MDF offcut for the spacer between the boards. This meant an equal gap was kept between each board that was laid. To neaten things up at the point closest to the fence, we attached a decking board perpendicular to the fence to create a sort of edge, which you can see there at the back. Once we'd reached the other side of the back pergola posts and cut out the boards for them, it was pretty much plain sailing. As my plan is for my hot tub to be sunken into the decking, there was no need for us to use full lengths of decking board on the sides. Instead, we cut an estimated length, leaving plenty overhang for when we come to cut out the hot tub shape. My dad attached each shortened length board to the frame whilst I cut the boards ready. I'd then stockpiled enough shortened boards for the opposite side and took over attaching them to the frame to save the old man's back. However, he cannot resist taking over. I'm not complaining. It was certainly taking shape, so it was definitely smiles all round. There it is. Right, time to cut out the shape of the hot tub, which is an octagon shape. We placed the hot tub where the centre of the decking would be and used a decking board offcut to scribe the shape of the hot tub onto the existing boards that we'd already laid, and obviously just kept a contingency gap all around so that there'd be enough space for fixtures and fittings and so that it wouldn't be too tight up against the decking. As the shorter decking board lengths were already secured in place, it was easy to then cut along the scribed line. The circular saw was able to be used for the majority of the edges, but where the diagonal lines met the straight lines, we, Dad, only cut so far and then finished the remainder of the cut with the handsaw to avoid any risk of overcutting into the secured boards. This made for a really tidy finish, and just like that, the hot tub fit in perfectly. Oh, it's all coming together. I was absolutely buzzing with how this was turning out. Here's a close-up of the cut-out octagon edge. Look away now if you don't want to get dizzy. So you'll hear people say to avoid sunken hot tubs because of lack of access to the controls, to drain it, etc. But all you need to do is create an accessible hatch. We cut this out of the existing decking so that it would fit back in the gap perfectly once we'd attached timber ledges to brace it. The decking frame underneath needed a couple of alterations to ensure the hot tub pump fit okay once it was attached to the hot tub itself, and then we added some holes into the decking boards on the removable hatch for ease of access of lifting the hatch on and off, etc. I knew there'd be more than enough decking board spare, as I'd ordered enough to cover the whole squared shape of the decking rather than trying to protect the deduction needed for the octagon cut-out shape, if that makes sense. With the spare offcuts, my dad came up with the idea to edge the octagon shape that we'd cut out. Not only did this really neaten the edge, but it smoothed it off as well, reducing the risk of any damage to the hot tub once it's in place. There were still quite a few little offcuts of decking board spare, so what you need when you're sat in a hot tub? A beverage of some sort. Although the raised deck surrounding you when you're sat in the tub could absolutely act as a shelf, I don't like any materials going to waste, so where we'd added the perpendicular board to the back fence earlier, we started adding little offcuts to form a shelf. It neatly finished things off, especially the cut around the drain pipe, which my dad was in particularly proud of. Wowee, that's the raised deck build complete. Thank you, Father. I couldn't have done it without you. Happy Father's Day. However, the gift of being able to spend 2 days on the tools with the old man was all mine. Look what I've got to show for it. Right, back to solo Dalton graft. Steps were required to get up to the deck, obviously, so I built these with the breeze blocks and rendered them just like I did my planters. You'll catch those aspects of the garden transformation in episodes 5 and episode 6. If you've already watched those episodes, you'll have seen how I added spotlights to my planters. Well, it would be a shame for it to be dark back here and not to be able to see the lovely decking. So I added spotlights to all 8 corners of the octagon shape and a few at the top of my rendered steps. The 28mm wood drill bit worked a treat here, and the spotlights fit snug. I used the same heavy duty and waterproof T-Rex tape here to protect the spotlights from any hot tub splashes, despite them already being waterproof. She's an overkill Audrey, remember? With everything structurally in place, now comes the razzle-dazzle side of things. If you can class a lick of paint as razzling and dazzling. I suppose what I mean is, now that the big build side of things are done, the finishing touches can be added to really complete this garden renovation. I used the same dark brown paint for the pergola that I'd used for the sleeper steps and opted for a dark oak stain for the decking. I panicked when I opened the tin and seen it appeared grey. I thought it must have been mislabelled and I nearly returned it, but a quick Google search confirmed that it does appear grey in the tin, so I trusted the process and lashed it on. Phew, it dried a lovely chocolatey oak colour. The next part of Razzle Dazzle is plants, and my gosh, are they expensive. The planters are already filled and ready using this layering concept, which you can catch in episode 6, so I spent a small fortune on plants ready to finish them. I opted for Mediterranean style grasses and palms, as that is the theme for this project. However, the plan to dazzle was spoilt by drizzle. Or should I say, giant golf ball sized hailstones. Bearing in mind, this was July. I therefore certainly wish that this was the quickness of planting, but unfortunately not. I did what I could between downpours. Once I had my selection of plants home, I placed them amongst the raised beds, still in their pots, to configure what I'd put where, how I'd space them out, etc. before committing to planting them. Gap in the rain clouds. Quick, Emma, put down your cuppa and get outside. I started with this gorgeous black-stemmed bamboo plant. However, much like everything else up to this point, I'm a novice gardener as well. I couldn't for the life of us get the bamboo out of its pot and I was scared that I was going to damage it. So I decided to saw the pot open. Not sure if this will make any gardener watching cringe, but it worked and it continues to thrive today. Success. The smaller the plant, the easier they came out of their pot. I guess this is because the roots haven't had as long to anchor into the pot yet. My method was to imprint the size of the hole to dig by using the pot that the plant was in, follow the imprint to then dig the hole, wet inside of the hole and then add the plant and bed it in with compost and another watering. I had plenty more to be cracking on with, so I just kept repeating the process for my Mediterranean themed garden. Well, Mediterranean is the theme, but British is the reality. There really is just no need for all the rain we had. Between showers, I managed to eventually get everything planted and finally the raised beds were full. Yay! And then the sunshine came. Double yay! So whilst it was dry, more razzle dazzle was added. I hung up this shell mobile that I'd brought back from Mexico and I gave the decking its last coat of stain. I'm keen to start growing my own food, so I thought I'd start small scale with a herb garden. I saw these metal pots in the bargain corner in IKEA for £1 each and thought they'd be great attached to the wall for a vertical herb garden. I drilled some drainage holes in the bottom of them and attached them to the wall. And it was all going well until it wasn't. As it was still July, the ongoing monsoon led me to this genuine Google search. Not even joking, this is a screenshot of what I typed into Google that day. I panicked thinking the last coat of decking stain would be pebble dashed, but luckily not. The following day brought dry skies, so the razzle-dazzle resumed. I added these hooks to the wall near me planters so that the gardening hand tools are easily accessible when needed. I then added some Mediterranean-themed potted plants to the raised deck and a cheeky sign to the back gate. With my hand tools now handy, I started planting the herbs. I opted for herbs that we use regularly, such as sage, rosemary, chives, what else is there? Parsley, I think. And I found that 2 plants fit in each pot nicely, and I think 6 herb plants to start off with isn't a bad shout. These hanging planters broke up the bamboo screening nicely, and all the plants made me feel like I was finally in my envisioned garden. Yes, it's definitely a good day to have a good day. The following day, I lay out some foam squares that I had lying around in the garage, and today was the day. Let's get the hot tub in situ, and more importantly, out of my living room. I scanned the instructions, but like most British people, felt I'd be able to figure it out on my own. So I started to set up the pump, which I powered by my new outdoor socket from the start of the video. I was thankful for a non-windy day and rolled the hot tub right into its slot. Oh, actually, I didn't film this bit, but before I put the hot tub in situ, I bought a handful of these foam pipe insulation tube things. I made a long cut lengthways and then they just sort of wrapped underneath the decking edge, just to add a bit of padding and avoid any punctures, considering that the hot tub is a blow-up one. And the bonus being that once the hot tub was in place, you couldn't see them, so it wasn't an eyesore precaution. So, just like that, the garden was an actual garden again. I can't believe what I envisioned had finally come to life, and more importantly, I can't believe that I was the person to bring it to life. I flooded my socials with pictures and videos from all angles and from day to night because I was just so buzzing with what I'd pulled off. I loved how the spotlights lit up my garden, but I definitely felt like I needed more light. You know, in case I ever guide a plane to an emergency landing. So I sat in my new favourite spot the following day with a morning cuppa and put a few orders in. In the meantime, the razzle-dazzle continued. I found a great local business and purchased some iron letters for above my herb garden and these lovely ornate hooks for near the hot tub for hanging up towels and robes, etc. after a dip. Whilst on me travels, I also spotted these copper plant signs and thought they looked great in my herb garden and in the planters. I picked up a chalk pen the type that the pubs use for their outdoor blackboard signs, so that the plant names wouldn't wash away in the rain but could be wiped off as necessary if the plants ever changed. Plus, I loved how they look once they were in place. Much better than the paper plant labels that come in the plant pot. To add more light to the planters, I picked up the citronella candles and dotted them throughout, and for more light above, my delivery then arrived. I opted for these solar-powered Festoon lights. I went for 100 metres as I wanted them draped across my garden, providing as much light as possible, a bit similar to how you see them in bigger gardens, etc. No point working so hard on this garden for it to only be seen in daylight hours. I'll link these in the description box below. Even in the winter, they managed to charge up and I haven't had any problems 2 years on, so definitely worth a recommendation in my eyes. As I have my CCTV conduit secured in place, which you may have seen in episode 2 of the Garden Reno series, I could thread the Festoon lights through these as they were high enough up the wall to make sure that, nobody was going to hit the head off the lights, they weren't going to obscure with the washing line, etc. The hardest part of the whole task was making sure that the long length of 100 metres worth of lights remained untangled throughout the process. Fast forward to nightfall and the new lights had charged, so it only felt right to light the new candles. A necessary trial run to ensure I'm a worthy contender with the Blackpool illuminations. Happy with the razzling and dazzling, I think it was about time to chill out and enjoy my work. The hot tub was filled and heated, ready for an evening dip with a beverage. Honestly, I was beaming from ear to ear. I was sat in that tub, proud as punch, looking out onto my garden renovation achievement. I did it, guys. I actually did it. Still to this day, I can't quite believe I did it. It's one of my proudest achievements and I get to look out onto it every day. Don't underestimate yourselves. If I can pull this off, then you certainly can too. Happy gardening to you all. This is a wrap from me. Well, in the back garden for now at least. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can stay tuned for future DIY and garden projects. With love always, Dalton.